Hi, welcome to the panel on the SASO organization. This session will begin with an overview of SASO's involvement in the Durango community, with specific attention paid to victim advocacy services, community prevention education, and volunteer opportunities for interested parties. Intermingled with audio and visual media as prompts for conversation, the roundtable will guide a discussion examining the interactions between hip-hop and rape culture, consent, homophobia, colonialism, privilege and entitlement, cultural appropriation, masculinity, and the ways these interactions manifest in our lives and experiences. How do we create space or give platforms to historically marginalized voices without appropriating from their culture? Do artists have a responsibility to create social conscious hip-hop? How is masculinity constituted within these specific cultural territories? Due to the pervasive and complex nature of these issues, a rich, multidisciplinary, intersectionalist discussion will depend upon the input and interaction of a diverse audience. Bring your unique perspectives to the session to discuss your opinions and insights on Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, or any other figures, past or present, whose influence on hip-hop culture can be connected to the issues outlined above. Laura is a passionate traveler, reader, and activist. Laura moved to Durango 7 years ago, and though she left many times to explore the world, this small, supportive community nestled in the mountains always draws her back. She worked as a SASO volunteer advocate on the crisis hotline for 3 years, as well as working with the prevention and education programs in the community. In 2013, she graduated from Fort Lewis College and holds a bachelor's degree in psychology with training in art education. Prior to joining SASO staff in 2015, she worked at VOA Southwest Safe Houses as the volunteer coordinator. She believes anyone can be an advocate. She is regularly amazed at people's compassion. Laura wants to live in a world of consistent equality, sparkly mermaids, free coffee, and mandatory nap time. Laura is a passionate...
It repeats in there. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
So don't do that.
I will not read it that again. Okay. Okay, Melody. Moved from North Dakota to Durango in 2006 and has since made it her second home. She believes that building relationships is a catalyst for positive social change and is passionate about bridging communities. She has volunteered with Manna Soup Kitchen, Rainbow Youth Center, and Sexual Assault Services Organization, where she now works. She holds a degree in sociology with a minor in psychology from Fort Lewis College. Melody spends her spare time being a cool mom, not a regular mom, and crossing as many things off her bucket list as possible. Doss is a senior at Fort Lewis College, double majoring in exercise physiology and gender and women's studies. His research interest reflects the unique interactions between his two fields of study, particularly issues surrounding constructions of masculinities and embodiment. Doss feels that a critical examination of masculinity's influence on rape culture, homophobia, and cross-cultural appropriation within hip-hop culture could provide an interesting platform for discussion of a number of issues. In addition to attending FLC, Doss works at the Reed Library at FLC and is an intern at Sexual Assault Services Organization, SASO, Durango. All right. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. I think maybe we'd also like to get to know you guys a little bit. Maybe we could go around, just get some names from everybody, and maybe why you're interested in coming to this session.
Good morning, my name is Meek Watchman. I am here because I was invited by, I don't even know who I was invited by actually. But I'm here to support this community. I am an artist, so I believe in self-expression and healing through art. So.
Hi, my name is Janice. I'm a student here and I'm here because of class requirements.
Thank you. I'm Tate. I'm a student here, and I didn't really know much about what was going on today, so I just wanted to come by, check it out, learn something.
Well, hello, I'm Hunter. I was invited here today, and I jumped at the opportunity because I wish to hear other people's opinions and perspectives, because I believe this dialogue is the best way to make change.
My name is Elon. I'm a senior here at Fort Lewis, and I'm in a sociology class, so I'm facilitating this, and also this is really interesting to me, how we can all heal together as a community and people reaching out to really make that happen, to heal as a group.
My name is Michael Watchman. I'm a student ambassador here for the Office of Admissions. I am an ASFLC student senator. I'm involved with several of the Native American RSOs. I was invited here by my sister Meek, who's here just to support, also to, I guess, be a representative for the student government here at Fort Lewis College.
Nice. My name is Dwight, and I was invited over with Chad.
Obviously.
Yeah, so we were invited up, and we're just here just to partake and enjoy as well.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
It just laughed.
Yate, Vinny.
Yate. No say yate, but it's yate.
Yate, okay.
I'm Giovanna Miller. My other name is Asana Loman. Of course, made you guys laugh. And I'm originally from Standing Rock, New Mexico, denomination, and I'm a single mom. My daughter here, or she is. Her name is Nabot. And I major in sociology, human services, and I do participate at the Southwest Steakhouse. And I do volunteer over at Nana Soup Kitchen. And I'm also trying to get involved with Fort Lewis College. It's my first time coming here. 12 years, and I'm finally here. Yay!
All right.
And this is a part of sociology class, ethnography and writing, and also to support. And I do love hip hop, even though I also have some music and get my daughter involved too. And also we're doing some sociology experiments around campus. See any strange things going on with podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I'll let other people know. I don't know if anybody else. Maybe until some people at the homeless shelter come.
I just realized what you're so
Yeah. She noticed
Love it.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kim, and I am a sophomore here at the college, and I am facilitating a bunch of panels today, as well as observing others that I'm not partaking in. I'm supposed to do a couple of interviews as well, so if you guys are available after this panel, I'd love to talk to you. Yeah, and I'm just here to support the community, and this one struck me for sure as, the gender and equality studies within hip hop, so I'm here to observe.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark. I'm a clinical psychologist at IHS, Indian Health Services. And my friend Chad invited us, so now we're here. Having fun.
Thank you, Chad.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Goltu. I'm a school administrator, and with my first master's at 3, that counseling background. So I want to see what the trends are since the last I did counseling way back like early 90s to now, with the infusion and the understanding of hip hop, cultural sensitivity.
Good morning, almost afternoon, everybody. My name is Sumika. I'm an attorney at DNA People's Legal Services, which is a legal aid organization on the Navajo Nation in Hopi and Korea. There's a couple of different reservations that we serve. I was working for 2 years originally, providing victim advocacy and legal aid for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. I don't know if you guys probably know this, women on the reservation are much more vulnerable to being victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. So that's what I was doing, and I just transferred over to doing more consumer litigation and advocacy regarding vulnerable impoverished populations. I'm from Los Angeles originally, so hip hop was always a part of my life growing up. To the surprise of a lot of my colleagues who are very white, bread, and straight. And, really, you don't seem the type of person who would get down with that kind of music. So, right. I'm particularly interested in this topic because I remember as a young kid, just looking at the intersectionality of gender issues within my own parents' culture and the American culture, and then the hip hop culture, and all of the above. And I work in victim advocacy, so understanding how mass media plays a big role in how gender is treated, both femininity and masculinity, and anything in between on the spectrum. So that's why I'm very interested in this. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Zechi Chad Yen, and I'm a graduating senior in psychology at Fuller's College. Dr. Anthony Nocella invited me, so I just drag everybody along, which is great. I'm in this particular session as opposed to the other ones because as an immigrant, I'm very interested and I've struggled with the concept and the construction of masculinity. Where back in Taiwan, where I came from, you know, it's a very different understanding of what it is to be a masculine male. So that's something I want to explore, especially through the lens of the hip hop culture, which have gained ground in Asia, as you know, in the past few decades.
Warrior.
Warrior.
The behind the style.
Okay. Everyone's really excited about pictures. So like we were talking about, we're here from Say So, and I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of a background from what Say So was doing in the past and how it was created to what it's doing now. If you have any questions about the organization in particular, or if you want further information or involvement, you can check out our website. And we have lots of volunteer opportunities in the community, so you're more than welcome to ask us about that. But Say So is the Sexual Assault Services Organization of Durango. We're based here in Durango, and we serve a 5-county catchment area, so pretty large area. And we are a grassroots organization. We were started here, and we're still here. And a social worker in 1977 at Mercy Hospital was noticing that sexual assault victims and survivors were coming through the hospital system and getting the medical needs met, and then what? There was this big shrug, and they kind of fell through the cracks in the system, and there weren't really any support systems or safety nets in place for the survivors and their families after their medical needs were met, if they were able to get to the medical side of it. So this social worker started rallying other social workers in the community, psychologists, and said we need to do something, and it was all volunteer based. So they created the rape intervention team, is what we were originally known as in the community, and they were doing advocacy at the hospital and with law enforcement. So it started as this in-person advocacy, first responder kind of thing, and now it's grown into this just amazing, it's an awesome organization, it's so cool. We still have in-person advocacy, and we have a 24/7 hotline. It's behind me. 24/7 free and confidential advocacy services, and that is kind of the original side, and then now we're really shifting into this education and prevention side and trying to address the problems of sexual assault and sexual violence and the bigger umbrella of oppression in the community from the beginning, so that we don't necessarily have to have that first responder piece. If we can stop it before it starts, then we can get rid of the aftermath, and wouldn't that be great? Put me out of a job, please. So now we have all these really great education and prevention programs in the community. We go into the schools K through 12 and age appropriately teach them about their rights, and we do stuff at the fort and at PCC. We do lots of stuff in the community, and stuff like this is kind of one of those really cool, unique aspects of it, where we really get to look into some of the stuff in our society that has built those systems of oppression. So we have like this kind of grassroots organization, but it's really cool to be able to look at it big picture. So it's kind of a little bit of a background on Say So. If you're interested, all of those programs I talked about, our hotline, all volunteer run. It is all people in the community who step forward and they're like, yep, not okay with me, we need to do something. So if you're interested, you can always contact us later, you know, look at our website, it's durangosayso.org. It's all right on here. I'll write it right now. It's looking at people.
Thanks,
Okay,
Laura. Thanks.
go for it.
So just a little overview of how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna play some video clips to start with, taken from Byron Hurt's documentary Beyond Beats and Rhymes. And then we've got some questions here just to kind of spark the discussion, but I'm hoping everybody will be involved and we can all kind of, you know, learn from each other and share our backgrounds and our own perspectives on all of this. So we'll start with the first one. They're 4 to 7 minutes for the clips, and we'll play 4 of them. So we'll start with the beginning. Do we have sound?
Yeah.
One thing I really want to say, and I want to make this very clear to all my viewers out there. I love hip hop. I grew up with Big Daddy Kane, you know, the Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Kwame, whoever you want to talk about in hip hop. I listen to their music, I party to their music, I listen to hip hop to this day. I sometimes feel bad for criticizing hip hop, but I guess what I'm trying to do is to get us men to just take a hard look at ourselves. You're like in this box. In order to be in that box, you have to be strong, you have to be tough, you have to have a lot of girls, you gotta have money, you gotta be a player or a pimp, you know, you gotta be in control.
It's a cool place for them.
Yeah.
In control.
That's all right. Not my picture.
Used to the time.
Take your pictures now, quickly.
Yeah.
Do you want to get in? I can take the picture.
Thanks, Susan.
Everybody's being inside the box.
Still can't see you. Stick your hand in
Men was seen in R&B, they look like very docile. You know what I mean? When hip hop came around, they brought masculinity back into the game. I saw that a little misguided.
Through rap music, I think there's an identification with some of the most stereotypical masculine standards. Every black man that goes in the studio, he's always got 2 people in his head. Him, in terms of who he really is, and the thug that he feels he has to be. It's a prison for us. Yo, I'm this, I'm that, I'm totally. You know you ain't doing jack. But at the end of the day, you know you can make somebody believe that you are, to be profitable.
I jokingly say that I'm in recovery from hip hop. It's like being in a domestic violence situation. Your home is hip hop and your men beat you.
This world we know about just smacking bitches is like a hoe. When we will smack a bitch and smack a hoe. Yeah.
We the kings. We the kings. We the kings of this. When I graduated from college, I was hired by Northeastern University's Sport and Society to educate young men about men's violence against women. When I first started doing it, I didn't really know much about gender issues, anything like that. I was totally intimidated and totally unaware about like what I could do as a man to change any of that stuff. But I started learning a whole lot about masculinity, and I became very introspective about my own self as a man. Every time I do a discussion or group, rap music always comes up. People would say, well, what about hip hop? You know, hip hop is so violent, hip hop is so misogynistic, hip hop is always, you know, bashing gays or whatever. And I would always defend hip hop. But the more I grew and the more I learned about sexism and violence and homophobia, the more those lyrics became unacceptable to me. And I began to, you know, become very conflicted about the music that I loved. One day I was just sitting home at the crib watching music videos, And I was seeing video after video after video of rappers posing and posturing, throwing money at the camera, mad women around them dancing. And I was like, yo, I need to do a film that breaks all of this stuff down. So I raised money, bought a video camera, hired a film crew, and began my journey to examine the representations of manhood in hip-hop culture. My first stop was Daytona Beach, Florida, at BET's annual Spring Bling Weekend. Young hip-hop fans from all over the country were here to hang out and watch their favorite rap artists perform. I had a different agenda. I was here looking for young men and women to talk to about the way manhood is displayed in hip-hop culture. On my first day here, I ran into these aspiring rap artists.
Look, prick, you ain't never bust a 9 before. You dicks turn in the pussies when it's time for war. When the shells hit they body, I show them who that bastard be. Ask my down-ass niggas, will you blast for me?
Keep talking about your guns, how you kill dudes for practice, lying. Only thing you ever popped was aspirin.
All they seemed to rhyme about was gunplay, killing other men, being tough and invulnerable, feminizing other men, and putting fear into another man's heart. Why are so many rappers preoccupied with violence and gunplay?
About American society, the notion of violent masculinity is at the heart of American identity. So that the preoccupation with Jesse James and the outlaw, the rebel, much of that is associated in the American mindset, the collective imagination of the nation, with the expansion of the frontier. And in the history of American social imagination, the violent man using the gun to defend his family, his kith and kin, becomes the suitable metaphor for the notion of manhood.
Make it fast, Slippery. It's your last straw.
People gotta understand that hip-hop was really created in the ghettos, poor black American, poor West Indians, and poor Puerto Ricans. Places like the South Bronx, the West Bronx, where, Bambaataa and Herc and these folks are throwing parties, they were considered like war zones.
Beginning in 1946 and ending in 1963, the construction of the Cross Bronx Expressway ripped the Bronx in half. Urban planners and developers led by Robert Moses showed little concern for the people who lived in the borough and displaced thousands of residents and small business owners, leaving in its wake a poor, devastated community with little outside help from politicians.
The mainstream media would call it Fort Apache, you know what I'm saying? People were terrified of going to Bronx, or you might go in, but you're not gonna come out. They called it the Bronx Zoo. The Bronx Zoo literally became a metaphor for the whole borough. I mean, and that's horrible because they were talking about black and Latino people. All of that fed into what was becoming hip-hop.
The culture and the energy that came from that was a very improvisational energy, a very sort of reclaiming energy that young folks through dance, through rapping and DJing and so on and so forth, that is how the culture took hold. It was a willed response to systematic violence in the community. And when I say violence, I mean like destroying homes. Imagine someone putting a highway through your neighborhood. Then you can understand hip-hop.
All right. Could we get the lights back, please?
Oh.
Initial reactions from anybody? Whoa, right?
I think it's more manly almost for someone to question that than it is in the first place to talking about guns and violence and all that stuff. For him to stand up, who is involved in the hip hop culture, and to question it, to go in there, that takes like a lot more, masculinity to me.
Yeah.
To go up against and be like, why are you doing this?
But not necessarily endorsed within that community, right? Like,
yeah.
They want that certain expression of masculinity to kind of be dominant and to stay there. So could you guys relate to, what you guys thought, do you agree with this guy's critique of hip hop culture, or what are some of your opinions about that? See some head shake, yeah.
So I think what just hit me right now, and this is very undeveloped thought, because it literally just came in my head. I think it's interesting, like the history of hip hop and the development of hip hop and this like kind of toxic masculinity that's part of it, that was what I see as like a stripping of someone's personal sovereignty, I guess, by messing with neighborhoods and stuff like that, and the poverty, and how that toxic masculinity was developed in reaction to that. And what I see, because I work on Navajo Nation, I see a lot of young men who are adopting hip hop as their form of identifying themselves. And I think I can see a parallel there where we have a lot of Native youth who are being stripped of their identity. And so what do they adopt instead? And it could be, I mean, that's, yeah, sorry, really undeveloped thought, but just a parallel that I saw.
So 2 points I want to make. First of all, it is easier, much easier for us in this group to talk about and praise the masculinity of challenging this idea, challenging the current existing hip hop culture. But imagine 20 years ago, you know, when it just, or whenever it came about, it would be very challenging and difficult, if not impossible, to challenge this brand new paradigm. So that's the privilege that I just recognized. And secondly is that I think that was really profound when you talked about the Hip Hop Association to the Western frontier and its expansion, given my interest in American Indian studies, you know, and it's ironic how the American youth are adopting hip hop culture as a way, without realizing its origin. In a sense, they are reliving and embracing the culture in which that has brought such detriment to their cultures and tribes. Without, of course, I'm not trying to stereotype that all tribes have the same experience, but it is similar. Okay, and I think that's really important it's an important message for the American youth to examine that. Not saying that you shouldn't adopt it, but perhaps like how African Americans have claimed or reclaimed hip hop as a way to empower themselves, is there a way, or I also see a movement to for Native American individuals or indigenous individuals to claim this genre to empower themselves? How can we transform that so that it is not continuously and continually reenacting that historical trauma against the indigenous populations? That would be really important.
Can I speak to that a little bit? Because the same thing struck me. It's just like my cultural lens is at the end when he was talking about this came about as kind of like a voice because this was basically like a war zone, and imagine someone destroying your homes and coming through like with all this violence. And so I feel like that was kind of the first thought that came to mind was it, and this is so relevant, especially right now with the pipeline going through. So I feel like a lot of indigenous youth are really kind of looking at that and can relate to it in so many ways because the same thing is happening in indigenous communities. And secondly, so I feel like that's maybe why they're kind of like latching onto it and really identifying with it, because there's a lot of parallels. Secondly, I feel like there is a movement happening right now with like reclaiming hip hop as a voice to, you know, an empowerment and speaking to that injustice. Frank Walm, who's amazing, Natani Means, Sean Turgeon, who's prolific. He's a Fort Lewis alumni. You probably remember Sean, right? Yeah. So they're all speaking to like colonization and kind of like call to action, and it's really cool. So I feel like that really kind of is the direction that we're heading right now.
If I could just tag on that.
Sure.
I also, based on a decade of observation around this area, my hypothesis is that when you embrace, as an indigenous youth, Native American youth, or indigenous worldwide, when you embrace this hip hop culture, it is almost required, the prerequisite is for you to abandon and step away from your traditional cultures, traditionalism. In other words, once again, the hip hop culture serve as a mechanism to further disenfranchise that individual from its regional roots. just like what Smitha said, it's an undeveloped thought, but I see the danger in that. But with every danger or risk, and as Jenny says, there's an opportunity, right? What can we do to, we recognize the danger, and is there a possibility to merge those two, where those are not diametrically opposite? You can still be in tune with your traditions while embracing, if not transforming, this hip hop culture.
I identified with the cognitive dissonance that he had, where he was like, he was party to this music, I enjoy it, I listen to it, I was defending it, and I was like, wait a second. Because for me, I had that moment, like, I really, really, really like J. Cole. And then it's his latest single that came out, Don't Save Her, or No Role Models, I think it's called Role Models is the song, and how it just, like when you listen to the lyrics, he's basically singing a song, if you haven't heard it, about how you know, he wishes he was born in an era before, but now all he's left is reality hoes and stuff like that. And how like, I'm not gonna save her because she's using her sexuality, I'm gonna have sex with her and then tell her to get out of my house because she's a whore, basically. And like, you know, I really admire him. He's done a lot of music that I think is activist, but when he said stuff like that, I was just like, I can't listen to this right now because it seems so ignorant. Like, do you not understand the entire complex of the media and what's going on and how that's affecting how people are acting towards one another? And he's just perpetuating to me what I see as like a form of gender violence, where you're telling a woman her worth is only that of her sexual being. And then when she gives you what you are telling her she needs to give you, you disrespect her and you say that's not, like, you know, for me that was like a big cognitive dissonance. You're telling women that this is how they should be and this is how they should act and this is what you should aspire to, and then when you do that, then you're disrespected as like, well, you're just a whore. You're just somebody that can be replaced and thrown away afterwards once you do that. So
we had a discussion like that in our sociology class, which you just brought up. It's more like the social media compared with society. It's like this social media and society is a place where they want you to be more like, how can I say this? They want you to be not yourself. More like how society wants you to be, to come out and look like. Okay, you have to look like this, you need to look like this, and your body weight has to be at a certain time. And then for modeling, you know, a plus size is size 12. And if you go into the shopping stores, you can see the plus size is over on the other side. And then the skinnier ones, they have the really nice clothes, and when it gets to the plus size, it's like, where'd this one come from? And then it's not just with the men in the video, it's also with the women. You see women who are shaking themselves and everything, and the girls see that. And I have a daughter, she's seen that one time, and I saw her say, what are you doing? They're doing it, so I have to do it. And I'm like, no. So I had to correct her, being a mother that way, and that's the message that I was getting from there. I was like, this is society wants you to be like that. And if you can't do that, then you're not part of the whole world. And then the other part, the history of coming in, where it seems like everything goes back to the American history of how things are coming in, because ever since the Europeans came in, that's when it just everything was chaos from there. And the whole and then I did on the Navajo Nation, sometimes people, some guys would come and say hi and everything. Well, they don't do it correctly, especially to the elders, like, hey, what's up? And I'm looking at them like, excuse me, that's not how you say hi to a woman or to an elder. Right. And we even had some youth that were really disrespecting the elders like that. Well, they were dressed that way, and they're saying, telling the grandma, shut up. Don't talk to me like that. You don't know what's up with me. You don't know what's up. Talking to them like that's like, what's wrong with you? So we had to go in and correct them, and we ended up demonstrating how to treat them and how to talk and how to dress. Some people are really ignorant, they don't want to pay attention to that. They start thinking like just because you have an education degree, your nose is up in the air, you're better than everybody else, and they start turning you down and things like that. so that's what I came with it. Yeah, I'm really upset right now.
Thank you for sharing.
It's all right.
Yeah. So you feel like, by subscribing to this culture, that something or a lot of things are really being lost? With, like,
Yes, a lot of things are being lost and it's being trashed. And nowadays, I feel like some of the generation is like, I'm watching TV. I do what the TV tells me to do, not you. So you're old-fashioned. You don't matter. So this is this time. This is 2016. This is what I'm learning from, and this is what I'm gonna have. This is who I am now, and this is who I'm gonna live. And people talk about decolonization. That's something I always wonder about. Like, how far back do you want to decolonize? Do you want to decolonize all the way back to when we didn't have these kind of clothes? That's another question I've been asking people, and I really don't get much of that response. Some of them, they would say, we just want to go as far as, growing up crops, and that's about it. We don't want to go back to wearing cloths and blowing cloths and stuff like that. That's the question I wanted to know. How far back do you want to decolonize? And same thing with music. Like you're saying, the generations are more in tune with hip hop and rap and country and things like that, and you try to give them the culture side of it, they don't. There's only a few of them that are really hanging on to it, and they're more in tune with it, and they do respect it. So like what you just pointed out there, we're slowly losing ourselves within this society. Even though we talk about like we're gonna hang on to it, we're gonna make change, we're activists, and no matter how much you say no to the government, they're gonna still keep coming in and take. And then there's nothing left for our kids. And that's when we're gonna stand and like, okay, what do we do now? Who's gonna help us? Are you gonna help us? Like, no, I'm done. I tried my best.
You don't have anything else I don't want.
I would like to add, on a personal note also, just watching this short film, it took me back in time when I was in high school back in the early 90s when myself and peers used to listen to Two Light Crew, Snoop Dogg, and other, to mention a few of different artisans. And me, not speaking for them, listening to those lyrics and singing along, I didn't know what they were portraying. It was just to blend in with those individuals to be accepted. And it wasn't until recently I had a discussion with teachers and going back to the 80s songs. And again, some of them, I didn't even know what they were talking about or what the messages were behind those lyrics. So having said that and working with individuals since then as a counselor way back when, a lot of the kids that came through my door requesting for that advisement, that support, were the kids that came from what we call the underdeserved as well as dysfunctional families. And having said that, these kids either had their mom being there as mom and dad, or dad being mom and dad too. And so they resorted to media and lyrics or men or women that they found on films, the MTV back then, videos, and that's how they mimicked, because there was an absent father. So they glorified what they saw on film and then do what they could to transform themselves. So today, to be honest, I don't think there's, and this is just me personally speaking, that there's a way to go back in time and to resurrect certain things to make things better. Because elders that I know in my communities have stressed at their governance meeting that if there's television, it's going to be driving us in a direction where one of these days, yes, we say we're Navajo, we're not going to be the true Navajo that our ancestors were when they began their journey. So with that, there is a discomfort, especially as an administrator and working with my teachers, in having to inform not only the community but the community of learners, including students, the importance of not teaching to the Common Core, the reading, math, and so forth. And yet there's all these interferences coming from the mass media, and they're taking our kids away from what is important of interdependence, and they're becoming non-dependent. So I find that rather a bother, but again, an alliance like this, the coalition, will to some extent help address those issues, concerns, and beliefs. And I'm sure you guys have been in this quite some time, and I just want to commend. So that's just my thought.
It's like a summary of what I was trying to say.
Tate, did you have anything on that?
I did, but you covered it very well.
Cool. Thank you. Cool. All right, well, that might be a good. Oh, do you have a question, Hunter? Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I noticed watching all of these videos and listening to you guys discuss this is that there seems to be this very major focus on power. The feeling, and it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it just seems to me that a feeling of helplessness and powerlessness in a youth community, and seeing the portrayal, the false portrayal of that rapping and acting in these certain ways gives you a power that you do not have, seems to be the lure that attracts so many people, youth, males and females, to to act in those certain ways. And it just seems that when, going through these, the traumas, the historical traumas that are exceedingly hard to heal because they are very tedious and they're very sensitive, and it doesn't get any help from the government. Making it even harder means that people who cannot feel empowered through those unless they truly put in the effort, they turn to the images in hip-hop. They turn to those images even though they're false. But in their minds, they are so desperate for that power that they'll do anything for it.
Really good point.
Go ahead.
Oh, what was the name of that?
Beyond Beats and Rhymes.
So, okay. So I do want to comment on, thank you for sharing what you're sharing. And I want to comment on that and also respond to your very profound question. How far back do we go to decolonize? I don't have the answer, of course, but I do have my experience. As I said, I immigrated from Taiwan, the nation of Taiwan, at the age of 17. And despite what China says, Taiwan is a sovereign nation. Just a little plug there, okay? It's on record.
Okay, you and
Taiwan was colonized by Japan from 1895 to 1945. So that's a little experience that my people has with colonization. And I don't claim to know how it is to be colonized for 500 years, okay? But the experience, what I want to share is that when you do have government that eventually came back and took over, namely the Han Chinese took over, and you have this self-governance where you're looking out for your people, it does help a little bit, okay? And it's a fact that the American government is still majority European American. Therefore, they do have to look out for the interests of their constituents, majority European Americans. So that's where the disconnect might and has been, being detrimental to the indigenous communities. And something that has helped me and my family and the subjects of colonization is that we have had our cultures, Chinese culture is 5,000 years, and we were able to reclaim it through our own means. We were able to bring healings through our own rituals or ceremonies without interference of an outside government.
But don't you think that you also had a gigantic landmass of people who practiced that without interruption, that you could get those ceremonies and rituals back from? versus native tribes here where the populations have been so decimated that it's like you barely have elders that you can look to that can tell you what it was like or what the rituals are, what the ceremonies are. I think that's a big difference between, because
So-
there's people to look to who still practice that and we're able to practice that uninterrupted versus for at least what I mean, and I might be wrong, but versus what I see here in the United States and in North America, where those indigenous populations don't have that.
And
Because there was
thank
no uninterruption of anything, you know, I mean, you know what I mean?
Not a continuous disruption in this respect. So that goes back to the point, thank you for bringing this up. So how far back? As far, I think that's, the point would be, for me, I think this is for each individual tribes to decide. And that, what I want to direct the focus of this discussion is the importance of tribal sovereignty, right? So we can talk about this all day, but at the end of the day, you don't have the say in deciding how far back you want to go to decolonize. And how can we also to tie this into hip-hop culture? Is there a way that hip-hop culture can serve as a functional mechanism to empower the tribe and to allow the youth and individuals to embrace tribal sovereignty? And how does that look like? What does that mean? And how can non-indigenous peoples like myself respect that process, if not also facilitate without dominating that conversation? So I'm gonna leave it like that.
Also, something I've noticed in the media is that it's not that there's so much a negative portrayal, although there definitely is, but that there's really no portrayal at all of lots of Native communities. And I was, I'm just wondering, you know, from a Native perspective, what is there in the way of cultural role models for youth in Native communities?
Right here.
Can you repeat the question?
One more time. Oftentimes, like, there's not much in the way of Native portrayal in the media, or at least in like the mass media. And I was just wondering, what sort of cultural role models are there for Native youth?
I feel like I can answer a little bit of that. Like,
I'll go next.
Yeah. For the educator, you know, and let me decolonize the perspective.
So get political.
Okay, okay, politician identity, okay. Politician identity, okay. But when you look at the particular parameter from 100-year centennial of next year for Navajo, is that really a celebration, or is it really like looking at our identity as a Native American Navajo, Nabahi, Neh, Kiani, or whatever clan that they may come from, as to what does identity look like 100 years from now for our specific discourse or race or way of life. So I feel as in that particular perspective, role models aren't really portrayed as what media portrays as well. So, you know, I feel like a lot of identities surrounding actors and actresses as well, through that paradigm of media and whatever a producer wants to portray as identity or portray as a sort of mechanism to identify with. So when you look at the identity issue within the Navajo Nation specifically, or within this area, region, Southwest region, is that there's still a lot of cultural identity here. There's still a lot of trade that happens regarding the flea markets. So even the flea markets still really portray a pastoral way of actually marketing. The interchange of that particular exchange is probably money, but the particular social environment that they're doing is actually still pretty native, I guess, or if not very natural to a human interaction. So I feel like when you think about about identity, you think about role models, it comes from various areas of values. I think that's what hip hop really looks at, is the values in which that particular community is portraying. And within every culture around the world, there's a specific environment that, you know, caters to that person's value, if not oppression. So I think that when you look at that paradigm, it comes from educators, people that are being degreed, or people that actually know the very basics of tradition, you know, what are the bundles, or if they know a variation of combination of that, or they know specifically a lot about powwow, or a variation of a lot of different cultures out there. So it becomes very complex when you ask that question as to what a role model is. I feel, from my perspective, looking at it, from as to what is the rightful person or a rightful ideal to be represented to a native population, if not Navajo, or its clan itself, Kiani, or Tohane, or Tuatapere, or Hanawaki. So I think it variations because each of them have their own particular principles of how they raise a child. Specifically, not so much, you know, when you come to the collective whole, you're kind of looking at collective intellectual property or collective adaptability regarding different concepts coming into it. So that, you know, I think hip hop does that. Hip hop lends to it, if not country as well. It's talking about the sound coming out, that country itself is almost in Navajo getting to its sound. Hip hop is just beginning. So we have a variation of a lot of different discourses of denominational thinking. Pentecostals there, Mormonism's there, Catholics there, Christianity's there. Navajo tradition is very much so instilled. Native American church is there as well. People that go to powwow are there. So there's like a whole different tier. Then there's people that like just right off, like we don't want the government. Then there's others that like, okay, we can work with this government. We acknowledge the government. So for me, it's looking at those identities and seeing where hip hop is actually portraying, if not sounding better. So that's my perspective, my identity.
Thank you. That'll allow me to share back to your inquiry about from a Native perspective. I'm more like a storyteller when explaining versus getting to the gist of it on a Western perspective. So there's that difference also that we have to appreciate. And coming from, as a Navajo, the role modeling, and this is me speaking not from a theoretical lens, but as a storyteller, living the lifestyle within the culture, is that the foundation is more from the family upbringing. I say that not to put myself on a pedestal, but there are families that don't have that same opportunities for their child or children that I personally received from my own parents. For example, I've always known my parents working, being very independent, and not relying on the government. I mean, again, this is only my family. And yeah, there are diversity out there about families, but that's their choices. It all comes back down to choices too, in dealing with how to not only become dependent, but to survive in the world. And having said that, if it wasn't for my mother, and she's been an educator, she's retired, and gone back last year to continue teaching, I'm sharing this with my team at one time. Coming to Fort Lewis, I want to be an exercise major, just to get out of college that easily. But that was before all this online registration, where it was just one card to fill out the bio and the major. And that's when my mother told me, and I remember like yesterday here on campus, you would be a mathematician, challenge yourself. So I did. And then it was on my own terms, working the next 4 years as a secondary math teacher, as well as an adjunct faculty for Arizona State University. that she asked me, is this what you're going to do the next 5-10 years? Just be an educator like me. You got to do something to be having that diversified background, so I chose counseling. And then the next 2 masters after that, and then with my doctorate. So role modeling actually comes from families, individuals, whether they're agreed or not, and whether they work or not. And it stems back to the elders, because they're the ones that set the foundation for those individuals. And some we carry on those traditions, similar or different. And I am stepping out of my boundaries. Most recently, if it wasn't for the group of people that I met recently, I would be here voicing my opinions, whether I'm making sense or not. But again, that's me with my, what they call in education, my English language learner background.
That's your not good. That's your not good.
So that's the, yes, that is part of teaching. So, and having heard this young lady say, there are individuals, even in our culture, that put themselves on a high pedestal looking down their nose because of their educational background. But for some of us, including me, when I find someone like that, just even with that demeanor, the body language, verbal or non, it turns me off. And I will not go back. And I'll walk away and find someone else that will not be on my own level, but the one that's more down to earth regardless of their background. So the role modeling really comes from within and how you make those decisions. And me personally, living in this society, I continue to struggle. I continue to come across barriers that sometimes I have to resort to individuals like my colleagues to make sense of. Not what I'm doing is right, but to get surpass that barrier. And one is having to speak. And I'll put myself out there. My second language is English. I've been born and raised speaking Navajo. And speaking to all of you right now, my Navajo is 10 miles ahead of me while my English is trying to catch up. So going back in time with this decolonization, yes, how far do I go back? But at the same time, it's going to be me, with the help of others like you guys, to make sense of it and to appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing. Thank you for that question. I just want to try to get back to maybe. I really appreciate this discussion. I just want to say that. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for covering lots of ground, lots of topics. But we also kind of wanted to cover. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think we had a couple videos that we were going to show, but we're running short on time, so I think we'll skip to the last one because I think it addresses a lot of the topics that have come up just now. I think it's only a few minutes, I think 4 maybe. But then I think that'll leave us on a good place to end our discussion.
I decided to follow the crumbs and ended up here at this Hip Hop Power Summit held in New York City. The summit was hosted by Power 105.1 FM, a radio station owned by media powerhouse Clear Channel Communications. There were hundreds of young black men and women here seeking pointers from hip-hop moguls like Russell Simmons, Irv Gotti, and BET executive Stephen Hill. Outside were dozens of aspiring rap artists handing out CDs and demos, hoping to get attention from anyone who would listen.
I make hate songs, spit till your face gone. Life's a bitch, and I'm trying to get my rape on. Man, I ain't leaving the party until the cake gone. Get your balloon pop, nigga, I bang strong.
Everywhere I go, and I've been shooting this documentary for like 2 years now, you know what I'm saying? And every time I have kids spit for me, you know what I'm saying? It's all about the same thing. It's all about how you gonna kill somebody, how you gonna, how you gonna rape somebody.
I could walk up to you right now and say, yo, could have been a doctor. Or I could have been a pops. Wonder what would have happened had I would have been a cop. Would I help the block, protect the good from the bad, or just be killing niggas because the power of my badge? You know what I mean? That's nice, but nobody want to hear that right now. They don't accept that. They don't. Who's that? Who's that? Straight. You know, give us deals when we
speak righteously and things of that nature. You know, they think we don't want to hear that.
I think when you're talking to a lot of these young rappers, the most important things for them is to get a record deal. And what they're hearing from the record companies is that there are only certain examples of blackness that we're going to let flow through this space. And when it comes to hip hop, there's certain conventions in which we want to see. We want to see kind of the hardcore thug performing hip hop. We want to see booty shaking in the background. And when hip hop videos don't fit into those conventions, they don't get played.
When I think about what we call the golden era from like 87 to 92, you know, you had LL Cool J, you had NWA, you had Public Enemy, but you had De La Soul, you had Kwame, you know what I'm saying? And so you had a diversity of black male expression. And so if you wasn't with Chuck D, you can get with De La Soul if you were a bohemian. You wasn't with them, you get with Kwame, you get with Tribe Called Quest, you can get with, you know, Jungle Brothers, you know what I'm saying? So there's so many different types.
The current images out there of black and Latino men in hip hop, right? Do y'all feel like y'all want y'all sons to be like that? No. I mean, maybe some aspects of business, you know, being entrepreneur, being watching.
They don't see that aspect on TV. They don't see that. They don't know that this is the entertainment. Working out a deal with with a person at a company. They see 50 Cent on TV with his vest on. Yeah. They see him with his gat on his waist. That's what they see. Because they don't, I mean, the media doesn't want to portray us, or I mean, minority people with, like, they don't want you to see that we good farmers. They don't want you to see that we good businessmen. Exactly. We don't just sell drugs. I sold water last summer. Holla!
When Self-Destruction by KRS-One came out, we was all pumping it and loving it.
We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right.
But now, you can't go to a label with Self-Destruction. Why? Because you're going to self-destruct. The label is not going to put you out there. They're not going to do it.
Every city you go to in America, there's a power this, a jam in that, or a hot something playing the same 10 to 12 songs over and over again. So what it does is perpetuate the mindset that the only way that you can be a man, a black man, a Latino man, is to be hard, you know what I'm saying, to denigrate women, to denigrate homosexuals, to denigrate each other, to kill each other. There's something wrong with that.
We have trusted the media and the corporations to define what hip-hop is. It's like now, and Hot 97 is the station where hip-hop lives, so we hear that, and we don't understand that it's some corporation owned by people who have nothing to do with hip-hop who just trying to cash in. It's like, oh, hip-hop lives there. All right, so, you know, they must know. That must be what rap is. No, we had never let the media define us, so why are we doing that now?
I went to talk to former Def Jam president Carmen Ashurst Watson about the shift in lyrical content in rap music.
The time when we switched to gangster music was the same time that the majors were bought up all the labels, right? And I don't think that's a coincidence. At the time that we were able to get a bigger place in the record stores and a bigger presence because of this major marketing capacity, the music became less and less conscious. We went to Columbia, and then the next thing I know, our producers of Public Enemy were overproducing an Ice Cube album, and then the next thing I know, we're pushing a group called Bitches with Problems, BWP.
And once that perpetuated into one thing and corporations get involved, yes, you'll sell 2 million NWAs as opposed to 1 million PE. And you're gonna go from fight the power to gin the juice.
Now once the market forces have helped that shift come along, that's when you get 60-70% of the buying community now is a white community.
So I think they raise an interesting point here, which is that, you know, most of the record labels, the big ones, are owned by white businessmen. Most of the consumers, 60 to 70%, are, you know, white youth. And so I think what happens then is that we've got these white people they're sort of serving as the gatekeepers for expressions of, you know, black masculinity and just more generally masculinity in general. And so, what do you guys think about that?
I think I had this question in our last panel. I was asking the panel members what they thought about, I think what I would say re-victimization in hip hop. Just, you know, I didn't focus on masculinity, but I was talking about like saying things like chinky-eyed and stuff like that when you're smoking weed. It's kind of re-injuring and not really standing in solidarity with other oppressed people. And one of the kids who, I actually don't really know who he was, but I think he was a rapper, a young white man, he brought up that point, that like the radio and the mass media and where you get money from wants to hear the same thing. And those things are part of what's accepted. So I think he made a really good point, and it just echoed that, or that echoed.